As I indicated as we began our celebration this morning, that I am very delighted to be able to be here today to celebrate with all of this community the fifth Sunday of Lent and in the presence of the very beautiful missionary image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. I want to thank Father Aquinas Nichols and all of the community here at the Basilica of St. John for your typical hospitality and your very warm welcome in celebration of this great feast. Also want to express in a very special way thanks to Mary Pirtle. She was inspired to bring this missionary image of Our Lady of Guadalupe here to the Diocese of Des Moines, and I share that gratitude to her with all of her many associates who have been very generous in giving of their time and also their generous service in making sure that the image is well presented here, and also for the opportunity of many to spend time with the image. It is very coincidental that the Holy Father today is in Mexico, and he is there to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the great country of Mexico. And so we say felicitaciones to all of our Mexican people who have origin on this great milestone in your country from which you came. And as we gather before this image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, we know that she inspires within us a dedication to life, respect life at all of its stages, that she generates within us a great dedication to family life, so central to all of us. And finally, she speaks to the solidarity of faith that we share with all of the Americas, because Pope John Paul II has determined and declared that she would be the model, she would be the patroness of all of the Americas, and so we really today are grateful, as I say, to be able to pray in her image. I would suggest that the missionary image of Mary speaks to the covenant described in the book of Jeremiah, which we have heard proclaimed today. And unlike the covenant of old, which was based on external realities, for instance, the delivery of the people Israel from Egypt, they're going through the Red Sea, the plagues on Egypt which had preceded this deliverance. That this was the old covenant, that people depended upon God's actions, and based on those very physical actions which they could see and really feel tangible, that they therefore gave allegiance to the God in whom they believed. And on this basis, the covenant was forged. But now we gather today for the new covenant. And that covenant is based within our hearts. As Jeremiah said to the people of Israel back then, that I am going to lead you now into a discovery of that new covenant, and that union of hearts ultimately is going to be revealed as Jesus being the center, Jesus being the universal condition and sign of God's great love and presence, and his unity with all of us. And it is his heart that is extended to us, and we are to then engender within our own hearts the love and respect responding to what he has given to us, and therefore that covenant is based on the very fullness of love, of the respect for one another, and therefore our commandments, all of that which we respond to in terms of being one with this God, are based and rooted deeply within our hearts. They are not external, but are manifest internally within all of us. And I would suggest that in these times and over the period of the church, that this reality is demonstrated in the appearances of Mary. Whereas we know from the many different nations in which she has made her presence known, for instance, in Vietnam, Lavon, in Ireland, at Knock, in Lourdes and Fatima, in a very beautiful way of description of our European manner of experience, and now in Mexico as Our Lady of Guadalupe. And what is so beautiful and speaks to the covenant is the fact that Mary adopts to culture, to language, and she speaks to the very least among us, in this case Juan Diego, to the peasants, and to the very young. And what she is demonstrating by that is that the covenant that God makes with us is the covenant exactly as whom we are as he created us, with all of the beautiful identity of our personalities, with our nationalities, with our language. It is the fact that God reaches out to all of us, and he says to each of us that we are worthy of his love, and that all he asks that in our great dignity as human persons, that we respond with the love of our own hearts. And the message, again, as it is expressed that we are profoundly loved by God, was what Pope John Paul II identified in declaring Mary as patroness for all of the Americas, because he wanted to show that we too are united, that there is this covenant that exists with God because he has initiated it and expressed his love to us, and we respond equally on an individual basis, but to recognize also that this God resides in the hearts of each one of us. And therefore, the covenant is expanded in that one God existing in all of us. And so, therefore, we become his people, his priestly people, the ones who are totally united. And in this context, from throughout the Americas, from the tip of South America to the North Pole. So then the expression and fulfillment of God's love comes for us in the course of the totality of Revelation in the Paschal Mystery, as it is so very beautifully detailed in today's Gospel. And we in Iowa should be particularly open to the description that Jesus offers in the Gospel today, because after all, we are the agricultural state. We are the ones who recognize the value of those seeds that are planted in the earth. And we recognize in that sort of example, as we reflect upon it, that the soil, the sun, and all of the water are ultimately tremendous gifts of God. They can symbolize the initiative that God has taken in our lives. He is the one who has expressed the love. Even the seeds, obviously, are from God's goodness and God's love. But we also know is that even here in the most fertile state, probably the most fertile ground in all of the world, that God expects our participation, that God expects that we be engaged with this particular experience in a way that speaks to all of the gifts that he has given to you and to me, and to engage in the ongoing work of revelation, of evangelization, of making his name known and loved, so that the basic harvest of all time is the coming of all people into his kingdom to share his spirit and to share his love. And going back to that example, we see that those seeds, though given to us, can, by the utilization of our intelligence, and by the utilization of our science, and by the utilization of all that we give, be transformed to be even more productive and to be participants in the nourishing and feeding of God and of God to us in a physical sense, as, for instance, Dr. Norman Borlaug, himself an Iowan, has demonstrated to all of us, because he took these seeds and he improved them through science, through study, through technology, in a way that the productivity is not relegated to 70 bushels an acre or even 120 bushels an acre, but now probably exceeds 170 bushels an acre. And he took that same science and brought it to the countries of the world, so that the seeds were adapted to the native soil, so that it was able to respond to the cycle of heat and also water in those lands, so that it is attributed to him that he has fed and therefore saved over 3 billion people in the world over this time. And so what that means for us is applied to our mission, to the ministry that God has entrusted to us, is that we are called to infuse that great gift of the gospel with our intelligence, with our understanding, with our great energy and feast, so that what God has given to us will be the source for all people coming to experience the richness that God is inviting all to do. And so what that means is that you and I, therefore, have to identify with Jesus, enter into the Paschal mystery, and gaining the realization that it is in dying, it is in the utilization of the very gifts that God has given to us, dying to these, that we will experience the resurrection, and we will be of tremendous service to all in our community to whom we are called to witness. And I think we can say this very beautifully demonstrated in the life of Mary again, that upon the occasion of Jesus appearing to her at the Annunciation, she was a mystery. What's this all about? How can this possibly be? And then she comes to the presentation in the temple when Simeon says, indeed, you will be pierced in the heart. And then finally, as we see that coming through, and the moment that she stands next to Jesus at the crucifixion, that she sees that this sword, this dagger, has indeed pierced her heart, and that she has died with Jesus. She has given everything that she has for the sake that Jesus, truly through his death, might give life to others. But she rises with Jesus, and we know on Pentecost Sunday she is with the apostles, prepared with them, all of them who had gone through this same death and resurrection, the same Paschal mystery, to witness a harvest of thousands, literally thousands, from all the world to come to believe and to be able to enter into that covenant of Jesus. And so it is Mary, under the title of Our Lady of Guadalupe today, that inspires us to enter this covenant that is written in our hearts, to be in touch with that reality. And secondly, to follow Jesus on the path to sealing that covenant constantly in the rhythm of dying and rising with Jesus. That is in the giving of life that we will discover life, and that we too will be able to share it with others. And then it is to see the notion of the seed and the harvest, that it is incorporating, as Mary has given in her own appearances, that our culture, our language, our way of life should be the one that is drawn into this evangelization and made rich for the harvest. So that means you and I utilize our intelligence, our experience, and our wisdom to be incorporated into that seed of evangelization in order to achieve and to experience time and time again that Pentecost in which there is a rich, rich harvest of all of those who are called to share the fullness of God's life forever.